Coming up, the bulldozer once again saves the day, the seal meal takes one for the team, I try my hand at fiberglass fabrication, and as always, I complain.
One more try.
Oh, and that's right, a big announcement.
So as if all of this wasn't stressing me out enough, I decided to impose a deadline on myself. I'm gonna move this thing to the hangar in about 2 weeks.
That and more coming up on Ryan Flies.
I think we are just about on the home stretch here on these inlet ramps. I got some rivets to set, and then over that we'll actually go this sort of corner gusset to help it mate up to the cowl inlet. That being done on this side, not on the other side because of the filter box.
Baffling is riveted. I just went and got it done. We got the gusset over there, which I didn't realize, but really solidified how close I was towards the end of this expedition of mine as far as not only the baffling, but the firewall forward. It's not to say there isn't a lot of work still up here. There is, but I feel like I am actually a little further along than I thought and that I've indicated. I'm trimming the tops of the baffling using a system of pens and markers and distance measures, washers on the front of Sharpies, all things that I've caught from the internet, all things that work really pretty well. The only thing that I haven't used that's a very common technique is the paperclip thing, and I just don't want it because it looks so fiddly, and everything in here is working well. I will say my favorite cutoff wheel and even the angle grinder, probably not the most effective way to get this done. It's loud, it's obnoxious, and you mow through those cutoff wheels. What I found to be the most effective is actually tin snips and just taking layer after layer of this baffling off. I'm about at the end of that. I will take it off and deburr it, and then it'll be final cowl fitting along with some final elements of the cowl that need to be done. We'd get there faster if I'd quit talking, so let's start to work. We're not looking at anything new per se, although this is the first time that the cowl has been on with the baffling inside. And the first time the cowl's been on with this guy. I do like how the cowl door came out. It looks really nice and it's got really great action. It's on there. I have heard of some people having difficulty with theirs blowing open in flight. That is why I chose to reinforce this with the doubler and why I'm using this really strong clasp. Now, if it looks like I sometimes struggle to get it open, I do, because I have it clasped down with such positive action that you really have to push in there to get it out. Again, that's intentional because I don't want this thing flapping open mid-flight. I have very limited trimming left to do on the baffling that I spotted out while I was taking a look at this thing all together. I'm gonna pull everything apart, do said trimming, and then deburr all these pieces and hopefully really fine tune them so it looks intentional. I hate when you have wavy lines cut by tin snips, so I gotta even everything up real nice. From there, I have a few last construction pieces to do on the baffling, get everything screwed together, really give it a once over before I take it all apart for paint.
So a little insight about me. I have a habit of drinking copious amounts of caffeine and then not really eating a whole lot while I'm working on this, which is terrible for you. My girlfriend tells me all the time. And it explains why I have the temperament of a 3-year-old just before nap time. Anyways, today I went up and I thought I would just sit down for just like a quick short break. And I just crashed from like 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, just out, dead to the world. And then I got up and I made like this turkey thing, stew, and finally ate something. Now I feel great, like well rested, I got energy, mental clarity. Unfortunately, it's like 9 o'clock at night and I can't really do anything on the project. So I guess I'm just gonna clean for a bit because this place is an absolute disaster. If my girlfriend knew about this, I would never hear the end of it. Lucky for me, I got a relatively unsupportive girlfriend and there's no chance she'll ever see this. I'm just kidding. She's actually very, very supportive. But still, 0 chance she'll ever see this. All right, so a while back I replaced my alternate air with the oil door, a position that I think is going to be a little more conducive to flows in the cockpit. That means I need somewhere to put my alternate air. I'm hoping I can stick it right here. If I can't, I don't really have a plan B, but I have the memory of a goldfish and I forget what's actually behind here, so I gotta check it out. Stuck on. All right, well, the good news is I think I have room. The bad news is the day is now shot because of the 12 hours it took to get in here. I remember when I started this project, I read about people having to be under their panel, and I was like, not me, I'm gonna plan everything ahead, I'm gonna do it right. How about a little context for what I'm actually doing for those that are unaware of what alternate air is? By now you've seen me fit the air filter into the baffle, and below the air filter is the snorkel that I'm standing in front of. Come on, Ryan. Move, move, move. Anyways, the snorkel is that white tube that, here we go. No, crap. Anyways, the snorkel is nothing more than an intake tube connecting the filter to the engine itself. But what if that filter gets clogged? It could be ice, it could be debris, it could be a bird, anything could clog that, and either I go down or I have an alternate means of getting air to the engine. Once again, the day is saved by the bulldozer, where I'll drill a hole in the side of the snorkel and cover it with a trapdoor, actuated by a knob inside of the airplane that I'm currently under the dashboard trying to install. Let's get back to it. Dear God.
I like my baffles, but I think they're a bit too tall, so I gotta take an 1/8 inch all the way across the top. Vans tells you between 3/8 and 1/2 inch for the distance between your baffle and your cowl. I like things tighter. I went with 3/8 inch. I've read that's probably not a great idea. Because of the amount of movement in this engine, if you're as low as 3/8 or even shy of 3/8, you're gonna wind up cracking the paint on your cowl and damaging your cowl with how much movement in this motor, shaking, and especially on startup and stuff like that, aerobatics. My engine is a bit different than the plans in that I have 2 lift loops here. I think I've mentioned this before. Partially, I think, to help distribute the load over 2 lift points and allow you to balance it, but also because we're dodging some of the items from the fuel injection. Because of that, there's usually a baffle brace that would be sort of where this rear lift loop is, and I need to figure out a solution around that. You could just remove the lift loop, though I'm scared I would lose it or the hardware that goes with it, and then I'd have to replace the hardware. It seemed like a lot of work. I decided to add the brace to the rear baffle behind the baffle instead of in front of it, creating a new bracket from aluminum utilizing my router. As with everything with the router, it took roughly 12 tries, but I did get it, and I'm really happy with how it came out and how it looks.
I'm aware some of my mistakes came out looking a little suggestive. Can we just be adults about it, please?
I'm also just enthralled with the learning experience on that machine. I make jokes and I make messes, but learning all about cutting feed rates and how to best cut aluminum and all of the programming and design work has been a real joy. This bracket is something I'm proud of. I think it's going to really streamline this whole appearance here.
I'm dragging my feet on the baffle seals, and I can't really figure out why. I honestly think it's like I'm scared I'm gonna discover none of this is gonna work, that I've done something horribly wrong, and that's why I'm dragging my feet. I'm a little concerned about this area up here. I'm a little concerned about the way I trimmed this, and I figure if maybe I just, don't do anything for the next 3 to 6 months, it won't be a problem.
Alright, now to get to the heart of this project, the baffle seals. For those of you unaware and unwilling to Google, the baffle seals are really what all this is about. The baffle creates a high pressure section over the engine, forcing air down through the cooling fins, and is the primary contributor to cooling on these air-cooled engines. Without good baffle seals, that high pressure never actually accumulates, and all the air that's getting sucked through our inlets here is able to escape without passing through the cooling, thus high cylinder head temperatures. Good baffling means good cooling. And more importantly, good baffle seals means good cooling. So I'm going to start the baffle seals here, and then we're going to head back to the plane and take a look at how to get this whole thing sealed up so that I can break it all down, get it prepped, primed, and install it, hopefully for, the last time here on the airplane. That's big picture. That's going to take a while.
we're gonna start with this hopefully easy task. All right, so first baffle seals are done-ish, like everything. I'd say side one gets like an 89% B+. There's a little bit of work, but it's got a great seal. I just need to cut the baffling back a little bit, the actual metal piece out front here, to make it easier to take the lower cowl on and off. Right now I've got a lot of overlap, I simply don't need it. So we'll cut that off, deburr it along with the rest of this, then we're off and running. Side two, not so hot. C- at best. There's some significant gaps around where I could not get the fillet in there because of the airbox. I think the best thing I'm going to be able to do here is to do some modification of the baffles to angle that sidewall forward piece in order to meet the seal a little bit and help close that up. I think that's about the best thing that I'm going to come up with over there. Hopefully we get enough seal where I don't wind up with any cooling problems. I will do that momentarily. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these seals, I guess. We'll call them quadrants because there's 4 of them. Quadrants of the baffling take a lot longer than expected to get primed and painted. It takes nearly an hour just to get it into the booth for primer for each part. So let's talk for a moment on moving this thing out to the hangar and why I've decided to do it. Setting out on this project, I was given by Vans, by others, by people who've done it before me, some key pieces of advice. Work on the project every day. Don't try to put it on YouTube. Don't move to the hangar too early. It's been the death of a lot of projects. It's been the death of a couple of YouTube channels, I think. Moving to a hangar too early, it complicates everything. You've got travel time to and from. You've got a lot less services and utilities at your disposal. I feel like I've pushed it pretty far here in the garage. Getting the motor hung, getting the firewall forward, you know, at least, we'll call it 60% of the way there. Getting the tail mounted
and so that I just have to bolt it on. Everything I've done, I think I've really pushed the bounds of the garage space. Arguably, I could go a bit further in here. I could probably work for another 2 months. But there's a few things weighing on me wanting to get it out there. One, it would be nice to be able to take a break from the firewall forward, which has been really stressful, and occasionally go back and mount the tail, or look at mounting the wings, or start to work on some of the other systems. Two, while the hangar has some drawbacks, it offers some things that are going to help at this point. The number one is space. I'm really at my limits of, you know, bashing elbows and heads on things just because it's so tight in here. It will be really nice to get somewhere where I have a little additional space. Even for things that could be technically accomplished in here, to be able to spread out a little bit will be nice. Three, I'm getting new neighbors. And while it's just a guess, my gut tells me they're not going to be quite as patient as my current ones are with the project over here, and the noise that I generate and the smells sometimes. I just feel like it might be best not to try and push that one, even for the short amount of time that I would be doing so. So it's scheduled. By the time you see this, probably a week out, we're gonna load this thing on a trailer and move it. The days after that, I'll get a U-Haul and box everything up and get it out and over to the hangar. Where I might take a break on some of this, like I said, and potentially get it looking a little more like a plane, switching gears just to have a little bit of fun. It's exciting. It is. I'm not there. The place is a mess, but I'll get it there. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna make it happen. I think, we'll call this like number 4 maybe. Just the mental aspect of it feeling like progress when I haven't felt like there's a lot of progress lately, I think will be really helpful. Once I'm out there, and after a couple weeks of work, we'll get a tech counselor back out and we'll start to talk about the timeline to getting this thing fired up for the first time. Until then, I better keep my head in the game, my nose to the grindstone, and get to work. Yikes. Well, the baffling is back on and it looks beautiful. I really hope that this is one of the last times I have to remove and reinstall all the baffling. It's fitting great. It's now that it's painted and we're heading towards the finish line on it, I'm able to start to do things that have been on hold for quite some time. The oil door and the oil door mechanism that I was working on long ago are finally able to be installed. I'll put the oil cooler in, hopefully for good. We'll get the ignition wires run through their little guides and get those installed. It's starting to come together.
A bit ago I detailed about how the mixture control arm and the cowl were at odds, crashing into each other at full rich, and I created a plug on my CNC router to hopefully create a blister of relief, or a scoop as I called it, allowing the mixture control arm to move freely and giving it some room for engine movement. The plug was finished and prepared for fiberglass, where it sat aside for a little while until recently, when I went and got some supplies and finally got knee deep in creating a fiberglass mold for the final scoop. This was a newer process for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed working with the new materials, including the polyester resin and the fiberglass mat. The mold was eventually removed from the plug after quite a bit of force having to be utilized in order to pop it free. Once free, I again used polyester resin to lay up several layers of fiberglass weave, creating the part itself. First wetting out the mold and then coming in with layer after layer of, I think, 6 or 9 ounce cloth. This was then again wetted out and to ensure proper saturation of the fabric with the polyester resin. I trimmed up some of the excess glass and then I went in for vacuum bagging, or my version of vacuum bagging.
Remember what I said about the girlfriend not watching the channel? Definitely comes in helpful. The part was then demolded and sat, where eventually it's going to be pushed through a hole that I cut in the cowl if I ever get the spine to cut a hole in my cowl. Here it is mocked up on the cowl to give you an idea of what it would look like, though I would install it from the inside. What do you think?